Disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute. I was asking a very sarcastic question to the reporters in the room about disinfectant on the inside. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? That was done in the form of a sarcastic question to the reporters.
But you were asking your medical experts to look into it. Were you being sarcastic with them?
To look into whether or not sun and disinfectant on the hands. Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
People listen to these press conferences. They listen when the governor holds a press conference, and they certainly pay attention when the president of the United States is standing there giving a press conference about something as serious as this worldwide pandemic. And I think when misinformation comes out or you just say something that pops in your head, it does send a wrong message. And we had hundreds of calls come into our emergency hotline at our health department asking if it was right to ingest Clorox or alcohol cleaning products, whether that was going to help them fight the virus. So we had to put out that warning to make sure that people were not doing something like that, which would kill people actually to do it.
Larry Hogan on why the president's words matter.
But it wasn't sarcasm. I mean, you're right. The president's words matter. He was pushing a scam cure throughout the entire month of March. Yeah. Dr. Fauci had to completely, time and time again, correct it.
And the FDA finally did.
And the FDA last week had to say, don't do this, causes heart damage. Mm-hmm. Don't listen to what the president said.
You're talking about the hydroxychloroquine in that case.
Talking about that. And then earlier last week, it was the president's words saying, hey, listen, don't worry. You know what? This is probably not going to even come back in the fall. Dr. Fauci had to come and say this is going to come back in the fall. And then the president, of course, lies about what he did or didn't say on Thursday. And he's talking about injection inside of disinfectants. And, of course, I just can't even believe people that used to be respectable, that are now Trumpists, actually trying to defend the president, saying, well, he really wasn't saying that. And if you look at medical science, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but he was trying to say that. He, once again, is riffing when he should be following doctors. And even, Jonathan Lemire even lied and made matters worse. My mother used to say, of some people, they lie when telling the truth would be better for them. Well, the president went on this Twitter rampage over the weekend, and one of the things he said was, I never talked to Dr. Birx about this. This was, and then, of course, there's a video of him just a couple of days earlier talking to Dr. Birx about it. This was a low point for actually his presidency. Many people inside the White House were saying, but he couldn't let it go. Even this weekend, he continued lying about it. And we have a president who really is under siege right now.
Being presented with video evidence has never stopped this president before from making outlandish claims. But you're right, Joe. In this pandemic and the White House response to the coronavirus, it does seem like people around the president feel like they may have hit rock bottom at the end of last week with his ill-informed comments. He had not attended the pre-briefing meeting. He would hurriedly received an update about the idea of disinfectants and bleach, and he went out there onto the podium in front of the world and gave not only incorrect but potentially lethal recommendations about what to do with those products. And what we saw over the weekend is on Friday he had his typical briefing and he walked out without taking questions, which is something his advisors have wanted for a while. They've asked him to not do it every day. We've talked about it on this show, that he should only be out there when he has big news to talk about or good news to sell. And the president was reluctant to give it up. He likes the spotlight. He likes the big ratings. He wanted to be out there to have the jousting with reporters. And it took until this moment until his mind was changed. However, while he didn't appear at any briefings this weekend, there were no briefings this weekend, He continued on Twitter, as you say, screeds against reporters and against media coverage, defending his comments, again lying about what he was actually trying to say. People in the White House, they were trying to mark today, Monday, as a pivot point. They want to start talking more about the economy now and trying to reopen the country rather than just on the health issues, even though, of course, this will be a week where the death total will probably cross 60,000. There is a briefing on the schedule today. The president is expected to attend. We don't know, though, what he'll talk about or if he'll take questions this time.
Well, you know, Mika, the briefings have been nightmares for the medical people and also other workers inside the administration who were trying to move the ball forward, who were trying to actually come up with a plan that will help America move forward beyond where we are right now, a place where our healthcare officials this weekend said we are far short on the sort of testing we need to have before we open up. But, you know, here we are coming to the end of April, the second half of April, and just very quickly, you know, look at what's happened this year. I mean, in January, you had the President of the United States saying on January 22nd that, oh, no, the coronavirus is just one person from China. We've got it taken care of, completely under control. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
In January also, he was praising President Xi for China's transparency and said the people of the United States of America, they thank you, they love you. By the way, that same month, Joe Biden was writing op-eds for the USA Today saying that America wasn't prepared for the coming pandemic because of Donald Trump. Then throughout the entire month of February, he said this was going to just go away, magically go away in February. Then in March, of course, other people in the media were saying that this was just a hoax. He was saying it was a hoax that was being drummed up by the media, that the media and the doctors were overplaying it. And then you go into April. So here we are 4 months into this crisis.
Yeah.
And you really do think that the president's going to be moving forward in a constructive way? And at the end of last week, what's he doing?
Oh,
well, first of all, he's saying,
off the rails.
And Dr. Fauci had to correct him again. Every doctor had to correct him. He said, oh, this is probably not going to even come back in the fall. That's just not true if you look at history and you look at the nature of this virus. And then he started talking about bleach and disinfectants and injecting them. Yes, his words, injecting them, not washing them on their hands. He lied about that.
Under the skin or some other way.
Injecting them or under the skin. And he asked Dr. Birx, who politely let him know, no, that's going to kill. And John Heilman, you know, as Larry Hogan said, he had people calling in. They had to warn the people of Maryland not to do this. It was going to kill them. And here's even the bigger thing. On Thursday, I think it was, the Food and Drug Administration came out and said, do not take the drugs that the president has been scamming on for the past month, that people on Fox News have been promoting for the past month, that Dr. Oz and all these other scam doctors have been promoting for the past month. The Food and Drug Administration, the Trump administration, if you do this, it may kill you. It may damage your heart. And then the next day, the Trump administration had to put out another warning to the American people. Do not take disinfectants. You don't inject them. You don't swallow them. You don't, bad for your health, could kill you. On 2 days, Donald Trump's own administration had actually tell the American people, please don't listen to the president. It could be hazardous to your health.
Yeah, I mean, look, we were on the air on Friday, Joe, and you and I both, maybe me a little louder even than you, I said, you know, the president's endangering people's lives. He's not just using this podium for political purposes. It's not just using it for propaganda at this point. He's actually putting people's lives at risk through the things he's saying. And of course, I then get all kinds of pushback from people on the right, and certainly the Trumpistas, who are like, you got to be kidding. You have Trump derangement syndrome. These people, who would be stupid enough, what American would be stupid enough to actually consider taking disinfectant, eating a Tide Pod, sucking down some Lysol? The president was obviously being sarcastic. So, you know, number one, Larry Hogan wasn't the only one. It happened in New York City, too. There were, and I think all over the country, you had bumps in phone calls into hotlines and Department of Health lines that day. Hundreds of people calling in to ask the question whether or not it was okay to eat a Tide Pod or suck down some Lysol because of what the president said. So don't tell me that there aren't people out there who don't listen to the president and take the president seriously. It's unfortunately, it's the case that many people listen to the president and they think that what he says is true. And so you had phone calls, empirical data out there of people calling in to see whether it was okay to try to drink disinfectant or bleach or whatever to try to get rid of this virus. And the second thing I'll say about this, which makes me absolutely crazy, is that the president gets on television and thinks that this is the answer. His attempt to defang this problem is to say, I was being sarcastic, right? So the president of the United States thinks that it's better to make the argument that in the time of a global pandemic, when there are 50,000 plus Americans who've been killed by this thing, that he's using the White House podium for sarcasm. That's what the president's excuse is. First of all, it's obviously a lie, but put that aside. Even if it were true, the president thinks that makes him sound good, that he's taking the podium in front of millions of people on television and being sarcastic at this moment. It's just the most moronic thing I've ever heard, and it gives you some sense of just how adrift these people are, that those are the two choices before us. Either I'm peddling this dangerous, life-threatening misinformation, or I'm being sarcastic. Right. Either one of them are totally beyond the pale.
Well, it's just stupid. Again, everybody knows he's lying. Everybody knows he's lying. But his defense for lying is, I decided to try to make light of the fact that 50,000 people are dying. And I decided this was a time to tell a joke, kind of like when he told his model joke. So, Mika, the thing, though, he still has defenders, people who actually once, and I find this to be kind of funny, actually, that people who once called themselves conservatives, who once claimed to be conservatives, who once claimed to follow the teachings of people like William F. Buckley or follow the leadership style of Ronald Reagan. Yeah. These people are now defending Donald Trump at every turn. And what they do is when he humiliates himself, they just turn and they attack the press. And, of course, they've done it again. Oh, why are you all even listening? What? Because people could die because of his bad information. By the way, people are dying because this federal government's response has been incompetent for 4 months. And the most extreme example of this anti-Trump nonsense was when Donald Trump said that he had total authority when he was channeling Mussolini. And what did some people in the press go, oh, let's look at the media. Let's see how they respond to this. Now, looking at the media, when the president of the United States was talking like Mussolini, claiming he had total authority, total control. And they decided that was the time to see what people on cable news were saying, or to see what people on talk radio were saying, or seeing what people online were saying. It is such a dereliction of duty from people who, again, once claimed to be conservative. William F. Buckley is rolling over in his grave. It's despicable. It's disgusting. These people that were once, quote, movement conservatives, so many of them have now just morphed into being nothing more than a Trump a cult, personality cult. And that's why they can't even admit that this president is unfit for his office and that people are going to die in the future because of this, unless somebody figures out a way to get him to focus, be serious, and put seniors first, put people with pre-existing health conditions first, put this nation's health and safety and well-being first.
So, a lot of the president's pawns, whether they're in the media or whatever, will say, Joe and Mika are so upset. You know what? I want to point out something you said this weekend on your Instagram Live. You would love to see the president be competent in this crisis. Unfortunately,
I want him to succeed.
That's not what we're getting. Yeah. And people are dying. So if you see a lot of emotion coming from this show, it's because we are frightened for the American people at this point, given the fact that the White House has shown zero competence in this crisis.
Well, and as it pertains to this, it hasn't gotten better. And the thing is, the people whose lives are on the line are senior citizens.
That's
and it doesn't matter whether they're Republicans or Democrats, whether they watch Fox News or MSNBC, whether they're not even involved in politics. Yeah. this lack of response over the past 4 months, this lack of focus by the President of the United States on what he calls a, quote, war, this attempt constantly to try to blame others and not take power into the White House and use that power to have a universal testing response so senior citizens can be safe,
History
so
will
younger
remember
people
that.
can go back out into the workspace, so small businesses can open up safely.
Right.
You can tell small businesses to open up safely, Mika, but if people aren't comfortable going to those businesses, it does no good. That rests entirely with the president's failed testing response. He's got to get it right moving forward.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.